Tapusda, how is the weather today in your part of the world?
It's raining.
I have been
Like
traveling to
12 degree
Tapusda.
temperature.
I was traveling to Tapusda city last January. I was thinking, okay, I'm going to have a good winter break, and it was like so much snow. In Frankfurt, we do not get that much snow, and I end up getting sick. We'll be waiting probably a minute for our audience to join us. Just check how's it going. Good evening, and good morning. Welcome to Persecution Report. Yesterday, I received a text from a friend of mine. A case was filed against him because he went to pay homage to our martyrs of 1952. Day before that, we saw a news of Awami League leader Mani Shikdar was murdered in the jail. He had diabetes and heart disease. He didn't receive any treatment. Day before that, another dead body of an Awami League leader, a woman, was found dead, and her dead body was found beside a road in Faridpur. Awami League activists, members, and leaders are killed systematically. It has been happening for the past 18 months. A new government took power in Bangladesh, and we thought situation would get better. It didn't. Today, we are going to examine past 18 months of political and economic developments in Bangladesh under the interim administration led by Muhammad Yunus. Our discussion is divided into two major segments. First, we examine the state of the economy, inflation, investment climate, employment, foreign relations, and structural vulnerability. Second, we explore how the judiciary and legal institutions have functioned during this period, focusing on accusation of political persecution, constraints on opposition, and minorities. Joining me today, veteran journalist Syed Badullah Hassan, Professor Dr. Tasfin Hussain, Dr. Mamun Rashid, and Barrister Taposh Kantipal. First, I would like to ask Dr. Tasfin Hussain about the treaty we signed with the United States, the trade agreement.
Thank you, Tanay, and welcome to all of those who are watching this. So recently, a trade deal has been signed with US. There are a lot of dynamics with that trade deal, but let me just highlight one thing which has been heavily advertised, or heavy propaganda has been made on behalf of the Bangladesh government, that in this new world, or in this vulnerable world of trade war and tariffs, we have been able to successfully negotiate a trade deal with US where the reciprocal tariff for Bangladeshi garments will be reduced, and in fact, Bangladesh garment will get zero duty access. So the government, the way they presented this, that this is a major victory for them. This shows a great improvement of the relationship with the U.S. government, and all that stuff. Now, let's look at it very closely, that it is very true that that reciprocal tariff has been reduced, and Bangladeshi government is going to get zero duty access to US market. But here is the catch. The catch is this is only for those garments which are going to be made by US origin cotton. So if you are not using US origin cotton, then you are not going to get this duty-free access or zero duty access. Now, I have some data from 2024, which shows that the total export of Bangladeshi garments to the whole world is about 51 billion, out of which only about 7 billion is going to the United States. So first of all, you can see that the scope of this is very, very limited. Okay. Now, the other very concerning part is that if you look at how Bangladeshi garments are made, like nearly only about 20% Bangladeshi garments are made from, like, what I'm trying to say is starting from fiber. So basically, that's where the cotton is needed. The rest of it is basically made from other stuff. So we really do not need that raw cotton very much. Now, where Bangladeshi exports are going, mostly to Europe, about 70%, we already have a duty-free access, and we do not have this kind of condition. So to take advantage of this kind of condition, you have to import heavily the US cotton. We are not using that kind of cotton for most of our garments production. So what will happen is that our garment companies need to reconfigure their supply chain. So first of all, they have a lot of long-standing supplier relationship with different in different countries like India, like China, and some other countries. So those long-standing relationships have to be revisited, re-evaluated, and the Bangladeshi garment companies, they have to now invest significantly in new spinning fiber processing capacity, which basically means the cost for those garment production companies will go up significantly. So that basically tells me that Bangladesh did not actually achieve anything. If you are a US negotiator, you are very happy because this is going to give a lot of advantage to your businesses. But for Bangladeshi garment companies, on the outset, it sounds nice. Oh, okay, the tariffs have been reduced. But if we look at it critically, then we can see that this is ultimately going to be very, very detrimental for Bangladesh garment industry.
Dr. Mamun Rashid, when it comes to exporting garment goods to other countries than the United States, let's say for the European Union, is there a clause in the agreement that we must buy those from United States as well? Can we buy, let's say, cotton from India or China, which are significantly cheaper than the US product?
Thank you for inviting me. There is none. However, as you perhaps know now, that there is an indirect, or you can say a formal restriction given by the United States through this agreement that if you have any kind of agreement with number of countries, opposing the interest of the United States, there might be some repercussions in the future. Say, for example, if you are purchasing cotton or any other instruments, those are needed for the processing of the ready-made garments that you are exporting to European Union, for example, that might be under some kind of direct or indirect sanctions from the United States. And obviously, in order to maintain your competition, to maintain your competitive advantage, if you are trying to purchase your materials from other countries paying a lower price, that will eventually jeopardize your agreement with the United States, which will not be taken obviously positively by the US. So, as Dr. Tafshin said just now, that the so-called the advantage that has been marketed by the last regime, it depends on a number of contingent variables, including fulfilling the agreements that you are not going to buy materials from number of other countries. So the question that you have asked, whether there is any restrictions from the European Union on importing materials from other countries, there is none, in order to obviously increase our competitiveness and to reduce the cost in the European Union countries. However, the competition will be much higher. Let me just add one information to this is recently perhaps you have seen that in the European Union region, the prices of garments product coming from Bangladesh lost value by almost 4%. And this has happened because the rising demand of the other products from other countries, including India and Vietnam, and also Bangladeshi products losing the demand. And when the demand drops, we know that the prices will eventually be lower. So, meaning that Bangladeshi producers and exporters to European Union now receiving 4% less prices on their products. So this is already impacting Bangladeshi exporters to European Union. As Dr. Tafshin said, around 70 plus percentage of our ready-made garments exports going to European Union and other European countries. This is going to definitely affect our overall export. Yeah, back to you. Tony.
Also, I have an additional question, which is that we have an existing infrastructure, and when it comes to garments industry, RMG products, we have one of the best infrastructures in the world, which is existing. So if we have to build new infrastructures, how significant that cost could be, and is it sustainable to build a new infrastructure for which we know a relatively low export to United States? I mean, cotton product.
If you are asking about the, for example, only ready-made garments industry, the recent shifting that happened, especially in the Bangladeshi industry, is that we achieved, I think, almost 95% cases or more that our industries met the sustainability and other standards required by the international buyers. This has been a significant improvement and enhancement of our industry in terms of the infrastructure and the also the logistics, the overall logistics that go into production of these ready-made garments. Now the question is, um, the competition that we are going to face in the near future, whether there is a plan to upgrade our infrastructure, or if we really have any plan to do it, there is any benefit or not. If you remember, despite having significant infrastructure in the ready-made garments industry, our profit eventually dependent on international negotiations, including how much we could actually export through the logistics used or supplied by India, if you remember. Now that we have lost, now I don't know what is the renegotiation status with India in order to take the advantage of the Indian logistics to send our goods outside. If you remember, during Yunus regime in the last 17 months, they planned to increase the cost of tariffs for import and exports. Those are especially going out of the country by a significant margin.
I
Aside to
mean,
that,
uh, I mean, we have seen even the port chart is increased by
yes,
33%. Gas,
yes,
gas for industries increased by 30%. So this
yes.
is already 60% increase, and these are the major production costs.
Aside to that, also, yes, you know that now the ports are being given to international companies. We definitely do not know what is the final status on all these ports. Let's say the ports are given to international authorities. Then obviously the cost, there will be additional cost because they will be handling with, so-called the quote and unquote efficiency, and they will try to bring their own methodologies into it, adding cost to the supply chain, leading to lower efficiency, lower competitiveness of the Bangladeshi products. Now, it may go up in the future, it may improve in the future, given that there is a quality leadership and good international negotiation. But the political uncertainty that we are going through right now, and as you know, for the last 8 months, our export volume has dropped significantly. And also that has impacted our GDP and also impacted import as well, private sector growth as well. If you're interested later on, I can share some of the indicators. However, right now at this moment, the infrastructure development, whatever we started during Sheikh Hasina's regime, those infrastructure contributed significantly to the economic development of the country. But now, when your demand is decreasing, competition is increasing, I am not sure how much these ports and other additional infrastructure are going to add to these export and or to the expectation of the export in the future.
So
Yes.
when Yunus took power in Bangladesh, first thing he said, the entirety of the world is going to come to us. We are not going to anywhere. And what we have seen in reality, it was that visas for Bangladeshi citizens to several countries were revoked. Bangladeshis were not getting visa even for business purposes. So Yunus administration's initial promises compared with the economic reality that unfolded over the past 18 months. Sir Badrul Hassan, what actually is it? Okay, what's the reality and difference between reality and the promises?
Sorry, sir. Could you? There's a bit of a noise. Can you kindly repeat your question for me?
That when Yunus came to power, he gave us promises like big mouth, like the entirety of the world is coming to us,
Yes.
and what unfolded, well, what's reality is, like in terms of like.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you. Yes. Well, it so happens that we have seen in our part of the world, in fact, in our history, dating back to Pakistani times, whenever people have gone to power in an illegitimate form, we've had martial law regimes in both Pakistan and Bangladesh, and we have had other regimes like the unconstitutional regime of Muhammad Yunus. These people, these regimes begin with a lot of promise, with a lot of, I mean, they give us a lot of expectations, but then we know for certainty, and we have known for certainty that these are hollow promises. And the promise that Yunus made were actually cancelled out by what his administration ended up doing. And what did the Yunus administration do? It struck at the very fundamentals, foundational principles of the country. And we have seen, as the two gentlemen said before me, they have painted a very dark picture of the economy, the economic legacy, if you might call it, left behind by the Yunus regime. Now, that is the reality that we face today. Economically, we are in a very bad shape. And again, within the country, we have seen hundreds or perhaps thousands of people who have been working for these different industries, especially garment industries. They've lost their jobs. Thousands of women are now without jobs, and overall, the employment rate has been going down. The percentage of people who are employed that has been going down. Prices have been going up. So, in other words, the Yunus regime left the country in an economic mess. Now, that will be a challenge for the new government. Now, the new government is there. It has come to power in a non-inclusive
Do you
election.
believe that this new government has the ability to?
Well, it remains to be seen because the prime minister is for the first time in his life he's holding a political position, and that too right at the top of the government. And then we have his ministers, some of whom have been in government before, but it will need more than the political individuals in the government, the BNP politicians. Actually, it will need a whole lot more for the new government to get the country moving again. So
But
how it does,
it's been a few days. Did you see any sign that they have the
not
merit?
no no not yet, unfortunately, not yet,
I
because
mean,
I think
so far, what we have seen is a promise that I have a plan, but
yes,
we do not know what exactly is the plan.
exactly. We don't know what the plan is now. What the plan should be, what the modicum of the modus operandi of the government should be, is to actually first of all get its act together. What does the government actually want in the economy, in diplomacy, in national politics? It has to get its priorities right, and that calls for a wholesome and whole approach, a proper approach to politics within the country. So they are involved, and then let's not forget the fact that the BNP government has come back to power 20 years after it was last in office in 2006. So that means they need to relearn the mechanics of governance, and that will again see that the fact that they are in government does not mean that have their hands full on the modalities of governance. So they have to get their priorities right, and by their priorities right, by this term priorities, they have to get their priorities right. I mean to say that they have to reach out to other political stakeholders, people who are actually concerned about the country. We saw the gigantic destruction the country was put to by the Yunus regime, because that was a regime which was not only unconstitutional, not only illegal, but it was anti-national, and they have done everything to destroy the country. The BNP has people, has senior people like the present Liberation War Affairs Minister Major Hafizuddin Ahmed. We have Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir, and the other. And then we are quite encouraged by the fact that the new Home Minister Salahuddin Ahmed, he has said that there will be no more mob violence. But then we need to see action. See
But we have
words
seen the mob violence on even on a national day, the 21st of
exactly.
February. We
They
have
should have
seen mob violence. Even Rumin Farhana, a member of the parliament,
exactly that
she
that
was
is
attacked by the mob
she
in
was
front of
attacked,
BNP people and the BNP tanks.
and that should not have happened. See, because the government should have acted resolutely and very strongly. Now, Rumin Farhana is a respected member of parliament, and she went to the Shahid Minar to place a wreath there. And we also know that she happens to be the daughter of one of the foremost soldiers of the language movement, Oli Ahad. So, but the point is, whether it is Rumin Farhana or whether it is any other citizen, it is the job of the government, the duty, the responsibility, the constitutional responsibility of the government to ensure that no such violence occurs. Because the fact that Rumin Farhana was unable to place her wreath at the Shahid Minar and it to go away, that that has sent out a very bad message to the country. And I hope, as a citizen, that this government, which is elected, it, uh, of course, we know the nature of the election, but then let's say it's a civilian government, it is the elected government, in order to make sure that the country moves ahead, that all these failures of the past, the questions that have been raised, particularly the last 18 months, this government will be able to deal with them in a very strong way. And finally, I would like to say at this point that in order to make government effective, this elected government effective or governance effective, it is important that cabinet government, the rules of cabinet government, collective responsibility be followed. We do not, I believe that if all power rests with the head of government and all decisions rest with the head of government, that will again take us back to where we actually slipped in the last so many months. So I would say, in order to go ahead, the BNP should actually get its act together. At the same time, it should also reach out to secular political parties which believe in consolidating national unity and integrity, parties which believe in upholding the foundational principles upon which the country was founded, was established in 1971. Otherwise, it should not. And of course, as I said at the beginning, the prime minister is new in his job. He has never held an elective job before. He needs guidance rather than his ministers expecting him to give them guidance. I think it's up to these ministers and to senior political figures, the BNP, to impress upon the prime minister the necessity of how a good job, how governance can be done, because Bangladesh is a difficult country to rule, as we have seen right from 1971. So that's where I'm going to stop now. Thank you.
I mean, this government is very, fortunate in one sense that when last time BNP was the ruling party, BNP governed Bangladesh. At that time, Bangladesh's electricity capacity was 37%. And 17 years of Awami League government, that is now 100%. And the infrastructural development Bangladesh had during the past 17 years of Bangladesh Awami League is just phenomenal. It's a momentum.
Absolutely,
To
absolutely.
those those going to support this government, like today we saw news that Tariq Rahman asking uh, the relevant department to open the third terminal of Zia International Airport, which was very necessary. Uh, then again, past 18 months of mess by Muhammad Yunus, that's going to cause difficulty for him. Now we also know that criminal economics, justice, and uh, law and order situation are very tightly knotted business for a government to succeed or any state to succeed. Now, during the period of Muhammad Yunus, Barrister Tapus Baul, to what extent did the government judicial actions cross the line from legal enforcement into political persecution?
Thank you for having me in this program and also for asking the question. The the agreement that signed between Bangladesh and USA, you can say that this is a test case of how the law and order situation was during these 18 months. You see, when an agreement is signed between two countries, you both the parties have to be on the equal footing first of all, and the parliament has to be called in the process, because parliament is the embodiment of the will of the people. So every government must present that agreement before the parliament so that public at large knows that what is going to be signed, what their representatives are signing for them. For example, as our both the economists have uh, nicely discussed that what are at stake, and those stakes were not discussed at the parliament. Since it was illegal, there was no parliament. Sorry. And another thing also being said by you as well and the economists as well, that there was no investment during Yunus regime. Why there was no investment during Yunus regime? Because the law and order situation was totally flat. There was no law and order situation. So when in any country there is no law and order situation, people are being killed rampantly by mobs, you are sent to jail without any rule of law, and there is no natural justice,
then obviously the foreign investors will never come to your country, even if you are giving them the service free of cost. They have seen that what happens with the regime change. We all can recall that there was this, you know, export zone for India in Chittagong. As soon as the regime was changed, that export processing zone, sorry, that export processing zone was cancelled and it was provided to someone else. So if there is no stable rule of law and natural justice process, then obviously the investors will not come. Now, let us get into the situation that we all know that as soon as 5th of August 2024 took place, most of the Awami League leaders, workers, they could not sleep in their home. Till now, they are running around. But those who get caught in the fictitious cases, when they were brought before the court, they did not receive any equal treatment as it was guaranteed by the Constitution of Bangladesh. When they were sent to prison, they did not receive the minimum rights what a prisoner receives, right? For example, food, medicine, then the minimum right to get a decent place to sleep, they didn't get it. And for this reason, we have already lost so many leaders who were aged and had physical complications. And just look at the case of the journalists, the case of Shariar Kabir or Chinmoy Krishna Prabhu. You will find out that every single case is a glaring example of rightlessness and lawlessness. What Yunus did that soon after his oath, he gave the charge to Dr. Asif Nazrul. So what Asif Nazrul did is that he changed the entire lower judiciary. If you remember that the judges were who were pro independence, who were secular judges, they were transferred just because they were posted by Awami League. So those who are politically connected with Jamaat, those who are politically connected with Asif Nazrul, they were posted in various key positions. For example, Chief Judicial Magistrate or Chief Metropolitan Magistrate. In the Supreme Court of Bangladesh as well, we have seen that without giving enough notice or explanation, the senior judges of the appellate division, they were forced to resign and they were replaced by those judges who were either connected with BNP's politics or with Jamaat's politics. Not only
I
that,
mean, Basketball,
yes,
what we would like to know is that in those postings, did they follow the procedure?
not at all. I was coming to that, saying that in the High Court Division of Bangladesh, you know that nearly 50 plus judges were appointed in the name of that judicial commission has appointed them. But look at the number one
The
quality.
Judicial Commission itself, does it uh, has the legitimacy? Is it lawful?
It doesn't also have legitimacy because when you don't have people's mandate for everything, i- in a democracy you have to have people's mandate in everything. For example, the judges, the we know the Chief Justice Refat, who was appointed earlier, he was when he was appointed Chief Justice, how many senior judges did he supersede? You cannot
That's the
supersede
point.
so many judges. And when Justice Jobayan, the present, the current Chief Justice, he was enrolled in the appellate division, how many judges did he supersede? There were senior judges before him. So, and you know that just because of these two senior judges have already resigned from the High Court division. One of them was Justice Naima Rahman. So she resigned. So what I'm saying is that number one criteria for appointing judges in the High Court division was nepotism and their political connections. We know that the wife of one of the advisor to Asif Nazrul was appointed as a judge. It's not that she is meritorious or not. The question is she was considered just because she was wife of the advisor, right? We know the father-in-law of Sarji Shalom has become a justice. How come he can become a justice? It's not about his merit. It's the question is that he is the father-in-law of someone who was powerful at that time. At first, he became a deputy attorney general, and then he became a justice. So all over the judiciary, these people has has implanted their people, their people of Jamaat
I
Islam, not
mean,
Pir.
That's a role. In
Yes.
many countries, we see the partisan appointment of justices. Let's say, for example, the United States. What's important is the procedure, because a state must follow the law, obey the law. Everything has to be lawful. The question here
Like,
is,
let me
is the
explain it.
procedure right? Is it lawful?
It
Or
was not.
did,
Since you provided the example of United States, you must know that in the United States, in certain federal states, they have this law that the judges will be appointed by way of election. Okay, they certain political parties, for example Democrats or republics, they will nominate their candidates, and then they will fight just like mayor election in Dhaka, right? And
yes.
then they will get elected. For example, even in the USA, you know how sheriffs are appointed. Sheriffs are also appointed by way of open elections. So if you want to appoint someone like that, let us say, don't become shameless nepotics, or shameless, don't use the power shamelessly, right? So just say that, okay, tomorrow I am going to appoint certain judges in the
Power is
Supreme.
also responsibility. We must always remember that when you have power, you have to use it with responsibility,
And there has to
especially
be not
when
only
you are a
responsibility,
government.
there has to be accountability. That's
Of
what I'm
course,
saying.
exactly.
There is, look, law has to be accountable, reasonable, and also the legal measures has to be proportionate, and
Yep.
everything has to be used in a free will. only then only then we will say that there is rule of law, and both the parties has to be represented. You, in law, there are multiple parties. For example, let's take about this agreement between United States and Bangladesh. Even though there are two parties, like government of United States and government of Bangladesh, but the people of both the countries are at the back seat. They are the one who has empowered these governments to sign this. But in Bangladesh's case, Dr. Yunus was not appointed by the people of Bangladesh. He grabbed the power, he misused, and look, just days before the election, he signed that agreement. So you can easily question the intention of signing this agreement, right?
There
And
is
whether,
another pressing matter. Best of all, our time is limited. Thank you so much for your insight. There is another pressing matter that this is the month of Ramadan, the cost of living and inflation. Dr. Mamunur Rashid, uh, we have seen one of the advisors of Yunus government, Mr. Bashir. He was involved in stockpiling uh, everyday goods. Instead of bringing it to the country, his ships waited outside in the outer anchorage. So when the month of Ramadan comes, they can increase the price. Uh, What is the worsening case? What's happening in terms of inflation? How people are
Well,
suffering?
thank you. This is important talk. P2P basis, point to point basis. Bangladesh inflation rate has been since, let's say, October 2025. That was by government statistics around 8.17%, and for the last 4 months, say until January 2026, inflation rate is now around 8.6%. So inflation rate has been consistently increasing over the last 4 months. Now, the incident or the report that you have just mentioned is that we heard several hundred small and big ships were waiting to cash the shortage of goods during Ramadan, and that obviously included, popular businesses, including the organizations or institutions connected to one of the advisors, Mr. Sheikh Bashir. So we know that they obviously made or intended making several billions out of these occasions, and which is a common phenomena in Bangladesh as well. And as you know that from public reporting as well, the price of regular commodities, including the everyday use lemons, now you can find four of them, 120 taka or 200 taka, which is
200 now.
so if you calculate really a Ramadan time inflation, that would be obviously in the range of 30 to 40%. Now, let me quickly, before our time is over, let me quickly give you some information quickly in 1 minute, since I have a great witness today, Said Badrul Bhai, with us, so that he can later on share these to bigger forums. Now, this is also for our audience too. In the last 18 months, based on government information, the amount of the bad loans, in the banking sector, Sheikh Hasina left
Non-performing one.
non-performing loans. Say Sheikh Hasina left, let's say July 2024 end was 2.31 lakh crore Bangladeshi taka. And that
When
is
you say 2.3, Dr. Babu Rashid, just for clarification,
Yeah.
when you say 2.3 lakh crore, that is for entire time of Bangladesh.
this is
54 years.
54 years. This is a cumulative
Yeah,
figure.
53 years of Bangladesh, 2.3 lakh crore.
Lakh crore. Yeah, this is a cumulative after all the deductions and everything. Now, come to December 2025, you have seen the report even published by BD Digest that the current figure of the outstanding debt in the banking sector, the non-performing loan, is 6.44 lakh crore. Now, meaning that in the 18 months of Yunus Jamaat regime, we have an increase of estimated 4.13 lakh crore of only non-performing loans, which is
So,
only for
for
18 months.
clarification again,
Yeah.
Dr. Rashid, for our audience, and 2.3 lakh crore in 54 years and 4.4 lakh crore in 18 months.
So the increase is 4.13 lakh crore, 4 lakh crore only in 18 months. That means only in 18 months, non-performing loan is 2 times the entire record of 54 years. So the amount of damage you can just imagine, because Said Badulbhai is here, I want to quickly give you some more information. Government loan, people are talking about it. 14 months, Yunus government, they had a record of $21 billion of government loan. Even the regular salaries were paid by taking loan.
$21 billion or 21
Only
in
in 14
taka or dollar?
billion dollars, not in taka. Billion
They
dollars,
borrowed $21 billion.
14 months. Let me give you another interesting information. Sorry?
What did they do with that?
Obviously nothing. They looted this money. That's what I said, that more than $200
$21
billion.
billion.
Yeah. Let me add another information with this. Government borrowing only in 1 month, Badrul Bhai, in 1 month, government borrowing increased by 33%. Private sector borrowing only by 6%. Okay, our LC settlement dropped by almost 1% in last 1 year. Back-to-back LC settlement dropped by 7% in 1 year only, last 1 year. Now, another information, export has been decreasing for the last 8 months consistently. GDP growth estimated to be in the range of 3% only, which was estimated to be 6.57% average during Sheikh Hasina's regime. Now, the classified loan in the banking sector, just to add to the previous information, By September 2025, September, which is 5 months before, um, the percentage was 36%, meaning that the entire banking industry, 36% loan is bad loan, is non-performing loans. If you adjust it for another 5 months
But
until
that
say
was
January,
just
February,
Dr. Mohammed Rashid.
yes,
In 2024, that non-performing loan was 12%. Just near the
including all adjustment
global
was
standard.
17%. Including all adjustment was 17%. Now this is until September 2025 is 36%. Until January, February 2026, my estimate is 40%. 40% of the banking sector loan is practically non-performing. And now you should not stop it here. 80% of our non-performing loans are bad loans, meaning that estimated 40%, nearly 38 to 40% of the banking sector loans are non-collectible. Meaning that what's the impact? You will most probably see, since the new government taken over now, you will most probably see 24 to 25 banks, good banks, would be in the verge of collapse. I don't know why no one is talking about it. 24 to 25 banks.
Dr. Mohammed Rashid, just a
Yeah.
minute. It's just a thought in my head. I had a different question, but now I have formulated something else. Dr. Tasbin Hussain, imagine yourself the newly appointed Minister of Finance
Oh,
Finance and Economics of the country, of Tariq Rahman government. How would you feel? What would you be thinking after receiving these data?
Well, first of all, if I am the newly appointed finance minister, I should know this by now, right?
Yeah,
I
and
should
then
have
what
a
would be
fairly
your
good idea. And this is basically, I know that I have inherited a nightmare. So if you just look at what the data that Dr. Mamoon shared, and I applaud him all the time because he shares very critical data. You can see what is going on, or what is the disastrous state of our economy, of our financial markets, of our banking sector. Now, you were talking about that the whole agreement between US and Bangladesh, and you are saying that if we need to reinvest now to change our supply chain, do we have the capacity? Do we have the ability to do that? So I didn't want to answer that at that point, but this is the correct time to talk about that. Do you think even our banking sector has the ability to give this kind of loan at this point? Okay.
no, it's impossible.
It is impossible, right? And second of
I
all,
mean, if the task is mammoth, we could believe, some people will put everything into it and they'll get it done. But this is impossible
this is
because
this is
economics
this
is
is a
not
nightmare
about.
situation. So now then you have all this new trade agreement, and you are basically encouraging or kind of forcing the garment companies to make huge logistic and supply chain changes, for which a lot of investment is needed. Now, there is, I do not think that companies can get the loans very easily. And even if they can, they have to pay such a high interest that they are not going to do that, right? So now that you are not going to do that, and you are losing your competitiveness in Europe, as Dr. Mamoon has basically told us, you can see where we are going. So if you are a finance minister, this is basically a nightmare, and this is appalling. This information is actually appalling, the percentage of non-performing loans at this point, and how it has increased in last 18 months. So for 53 years since, or 54 years since the independence, you have a level of non-performing loans, and every country has that. But then within 18 months, it has doubled. So this is basically, the people should understand that in the name of resisting fascism, in the name of fairness, in the name of democracy, in the name of fair and inclusive election, what actually went on? This Yunus regime, I am very, very sorry that I shouldn't be saying this like that, but this Yunus regime should be one day, everybody should be one day brought to justice for this kind of corruption that they have done. Forget about everything else.
I mean, let, let's say we are going through a very difficult period. There is no doubt about it. We had an incompetent government, not just incompetent, corrupt, like very, very corrupt government.
Tonoy bhai, can
And
I
then
add one more sentence to it?
yes, please.
Yeah, just to add to what Tashwin bhai said, to alert, and again to have Bodrul bhai as the witness, and Taposh bhai is here as well, to have our audience as the witness. And this is our estimate only. Out of, say, roughly around 60 banks, 10 banks are already in turmoil. There are some merging going on. You know that there are 5 banks being merged into one, and others. 25 banks, as I just mentioned, in the verge of collapse almost. Premier Bank, as you perhaps have seen last week, they, I think, got the permission to get 5,000 crore from central bank for meeting their liquidity. Premier Bank used to be one of the good banks. Now consider the remaining 25 banks, so-called good banks in the country. They are simply surviving by giving loans to the government. Now, if the government is technically bankrupt, where you have more expenses than income, these 25 banks are going to be shattered soon. Now you, Dr. Tafshin Bhai, as the finance minister of the new government, now you plan how you are going to survive with this condition. Even the question is how we have reached this low. Tafshin Bhai tried to raise this point. How actually we have reached this low in terms of our economic prosperity? Yeah, back to you, Dr. Tafshin.
This is, I'm sorry, I'm just 30 seconds. This is a total destruction of the financial system that we have built for 53 years in just 18 months. This was not just built by Amali government. This was not just built by BNP government. This was built by different regimes in 53 years. Now, this has been completely destroyed in just 18 months, and it's going to take at least 18 years again, I believe, to get back to where we were. So we are already 18 years behind.
I mean, first and foremost, what we need in this country for the sake of our people is stability. Even right now, the country is going through an anarchism, what we have seen. And if the situation is not stable, there is no way we can bounce back. And when I speak about stability, the pressing question is political stability. Bangladesh Awami League is 50% of this country. We have a huge number. Although the Bangladesh Awami League is out of parliament, for the stability of this country, it is very important that all the political forces of the country be allowed to do their business peacefully. What we are seeing in the past few days, the burning and torching down and vandalizing of Awami League offices again, it doesn't help. But the political stability, how we could achieve it right now, this is most important.
I think having listened to our eminent economists for the last so many minutes, they have given us these facts and figures. First of all, let's say the Yunus regime, the illegal Yunus regime, if I may use that term, has
And corrupt.
illegal, corrupt, incompetent, and they were highway robbers. See, they've committed highway robbery, and they've left the economy in a situation where the economy has hit rock bottom. So this present government will have to do a very, I mean, it's between a rock and a hard place. First of all, the economy is very in very bad shape. Politics is unstable. Now, to your question about stability, I think to restore stability in the country, the new government should first of all initiate proceedings, as Dr. Tashfeen Hussain said a few minutes ago, that these people who ran the country, or who, they didn't run the country, they destroyed the country for the last 18 months, they should be brought to account. And none of them, none of these advisors, Yunus and every other advisor, they should be held accountable. And Parliament should initiate, the new Parliament should initiate investigations into what these people have been doing for the last 18 months, how they ruined not just the economy, they ruined, they have not destroyed history, but they did everything to destroy history. Now, for political stability to return to the country, the BNP government is elected, of course, but then the BNP government itself knows that it stands on weak ground, because half the population, anywhere between 35 and 45% of the people, of voters, of the electorate, stayed away from the election because their party, the Awami League, was not there. So the rough estimate is no more than 26 or 26 to 28% of people went to the voting centers. Then again, there's the other factor also, that a good number of Awami League voters, those who went to vote, they voted for the BNP in order to keep these extremist Jamaat-e-Islami at bay. So for stability to return, for political stability to return, first of all, the government has to be firm. Now, as I said, their words must be backed by deeds. Or this lawlessness against the Awami League, against Awami League officers, against Awami League activists, that should be brought to an end. Secondly, all these people, politicians, writers, journalists, and others, former chief election commissioners and former judges of the Supreme Court and High Court, they've been in jail. They've been in jail for the last 18 months. Measures should be taken for their release, because if these people are not really, if all of them are respected individuals, all citizens are respected in the country, you have to release them. And if the government does not take any action, does not take any legal moves to have them released, even on bail, then it'll face a bigger crisis. It'll have a bigger crisis on its hands, because we know that the Jamaat, these organizations, the fundamentalist Jamaat, and these students, well, so-called students who brought about this destruction of the country, and now in the NCP, they will give the BNP government a whole lot of trouble. In order to avoid the trouble, in order to tide over the problem, the BNP has to take all these steps, release prisoners, all these prisoners who are there in prison, then have Yunus and his administrators, his advisors, account for their inability, for their corruption, for whatever, for everything that they did, and they did everything wrong before Parliament. Special parliamentary committees should be formed to investigate them. And again, the most important thing is for the BNP to actually reach out to the Awami League, because it's obvious, without the Awami League, you cannot govern Bangladesh. Because even now, see, despite this persecution of the last 18 months, if you have a free and fair election, an election will become necessary again. If not in 6 months, if not in a year, if in 2 years, you'll need a new election. So the point is,
we have to gather every possible hand to rebuild this country again.
Yes, but by every possible hand, we mean we mean patriotic elements. And I would also add here that people who have contributed to the chaos, who have destroyed the symbols of our great liberation war, they should be identified and punished. And at the same time, those who presided over this destruction, the Yunus government, the chiefs of the security forces, and all other law enforcement agencies, when they stood there as all this destruction went on, they should also be identified and they should be made accountable. Because if that accountability is not there, if these people are allowed to go off, say, and go off freely and live freely, I think there will be a time in future again when similar destruction will take place. So we have learned in the last 54 years, we have seen how Khandakar Mushtaq Ahmed seized power, how two military regimes came to power, how they all, step by step, they destroyed the government, they destroyed the principles of the country, They struck at secularism, they struck at democracy, and Yunus, what the Yunus government tried to do, they tried to destroy the entire country, entire fabric. His reset button, he talked of reset button. Now that reset button should be employed by this government and by the people of the country to bring him to trial, because frankly,
And
Yunus.
thank you, Mudbhai. Our time, we have a
No,
very limited
I
time.
just want, I just one last point. Yunus and
Yes.
his advisors, they have committed sedition. They have committed treason. They must pay for it. Thank you.
I mean, the history of Bangladesh, if we read it, if we see it, Jamaat-e-Islam never contributed to Bangladesh in a constructive way. What Jamaat-e-Islam did to Bangladesh is conspiracy, violence, turmoils. And they have today become a major part of this government. Barrister Bongo, very shortly, please. What options are there open for this government, the Tariq Rahman-led BNP
The
government?
the options of this government is
How
to
should
rule.
we deal with Jamaat-e-Islam? Because you are an expert on Jamaat-e-Islam, being a prosecutor of ICT.
Yes, as I said, that BNP first of all should rule the country by rule of law and natural justice, and ensure that both these rogues who has committed crimes in July and August, killed police, they must be brought to justice. Yunus and his advisors must be accountable for their decisions, which are illegal, undemocratic, and unconstitutional. And together with that, you have to ensure the investors that rule of law will prevail in Bangladesh. Look, that because of lack of rule of law in Bangladesh, the revenue collection has been a great problematic zone for last 18 months, and this is one of the reason why uh, we need to borrow money for running the administration of the government in last 18 months as well, which should not have been the case. Why Tarek Zia said that he and his cabinet will not be using government vehicles, because the government does not have the money for to pay for the oil of those government vehicles. The government has the money to pay the drivers for their overtime. That is the reality. And if in a country you do not protect, or police cannot protect themselves against hooligans, against terrorists, and they are being killed for that, and there will be no justice for that, then investors will not come, because investors will sense automatically that in a case like July, August, who will protect us? The police is easily a target, so they cannot protect us. Look, I will just say this last word and finish, that in Afghanistan we know India is investing. Who is protecting their investment? It is their own soldiers there who are protecting those investments. It's not Afghani police or Afghani military or whatever it is. This is the situation everywhere, even in Nigeria or everywhere where China is investing. They are employing their mercenaries, their own forces, so that their investment can be protected. Are you going to allow mercenaries on the soil of Bangladesh? That's it. That's my last word. Thank you.
Thank you, Barrister Ball, and our panelists for this extremely important discussion today. Uh, we have reached the end of our time for this show, but we'll be seeing you next week, same time. Till then, goodbye.
Thank you.